Hello, welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, and my colleague Chris Rice. This week we take a look at a new Superfund that's coming through, and I talk about tax for probably too long. Okay, Chris, first up, I think we should talk about probably the bigger news of the week. TPT's announcement that they're going to launch a Superfund of some kind. So what do we know so far, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's hard to get too excited of an intent. So there's still a long way to go yet, but they probably did so because there were rumours swirling around the market that they had to, and there's a lot of work to do in authorisation, so it's hard to keep secret, so why not make public what they're going to do? So good news that there's potentially another option there for schemes, but we're still, I don't know, don't want to be too negative, 6 months away until they've probably going to get authorization, and then a few months after that until they're able to do their first deal. So it'll be good to look at the detail. On the face of it, quite a different model to Clara. So Clara's approach is to take schemes at a cheaper than buyout price, look after them for about 5 years, and then be able to buy them out more cheaply by having the scheme mature for 5 years and bundling them together and using their insurance knowledge and know-how to get a good deal. So that means when you look at a Clara transaction, they weigh very heavy on the probability that members will get full benefits, and that being very high, the way they invest and the fact that they buy out a little bit later on. So members get the same benefits, and from the employer's perspective, especially for distressed employers, really, which is largely at the moment, at a cheaper price. Would presume it'd be a similar price to go into the TPT arrangement, but that remains to be seen. The difference being they don't intend to shift it to buyout in 5 years or at all, and to continue to run it on. And if they're seeing those profits come through, that the members will get some of the surplus. So whereas if things go well for Clara, they're making the money. If things go well for TPT, the members will benefit from some of that, you'd hope, but also what's the risk behind that, the probability they get full benefits. We all like I do a lot of buyouts. I like the ultimate insurance security framework, and that's not there with TPT. So will be interesting to compare the two and how employers and trustees would view the difference between the two. The bigger issue, though, is whether you can go to the consolidator at all. And that's the difficult one that we're seeing at the moment. The gateway test, as it's called, is quite restrictive in that you virtually have to have quite a high hurdle to say you can't buy out within the next 5 years based on covenant and the funding of the scheme. Lots of schemes are now quite well funded, so that puts them out, but maybe not that well funded enough to buy out just yet. And then that relies on saying that the company's not going to be here for the next 2 to 3 5 years, which is quite a difficult thing that nobody really wants to say anyway. So that there is some weakening of that coming through, but I think for it to be really big, it would need to be some quite substantial weakening.
It just reminds me a little bit of the Superfund that Eddie Trull and friends tried to launch a few years ago with that upside sharing. That didn't really come through in the end. And I'm just thinking about TPT as like their Superfund being run on in perpetuity. I mean, you can't run on forever, and there must be an endpoint at some point. I suspect their model isn't to pay the last pensioner, in 150 years' time or whatever. So it's sort of run on for now, I suppose, or run on while that's viable. And is that a challenge for trustees to be able to sort of, when they're doing that risk transfer, to understand how long that's going to be?
Yeah, I think so, and how much that surplus might look like. And probability of member getting full benefits it's probably something that will come that they'll have to look at, and probability that members get more than full benefits, which is this new thing. So the probability members get full benefits with insurer versus probability members get full benefits where they are versus Clara versus getting better benefits with TPT. It's quite hard. There's quite a lot to think about, and hopefully those of us can put something that trustees can understand when we've seen the details.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Dave, it's another week when those people who usually give us a wide berth when they know what we do come over and start asking questions about what Rachel Reeves might do, what is going to change, and heaven forbid, what they should do, which is something we all never want to answer.
No, yes. So it's another week, another tax raid on pensions set of headlines dominating, especially over the weekend. So apparently Rachel Reeves is being urged to do this by various think tanks. I can never find these think tanks, to be honest. I don't even believe they exist. It does seem to be just lots of. I think lots of the journalists having a great time taking comments from someone saying this is a worry, but this probably won't happen, and someone saying this is a worry and this probably will happen, and then just smishing it all together and turning it into this is something that Rachel Reeves is being asked to do, which I'm sure she isn't from any think tanks. But it we're going around again. So the 25% tax-free cash rumor is getting larger. Should you do it? Should you not do it? Don't do it on a rumor is definitely the headline. AJ Bell have come through and they say that the government should make some kind of positive commitment and say, we are not going to take away the 25% tax-free cash, and we never will. So they've got a petition out there which is saying that the government should sign themselves up to a pensions lock to reassure savers. You're putting money in a pension scheme, you're expecting to be there for 30, 40 years before you can get hold of it. You need some reassurance that it's going to at least appear a little bit like the deal you were making at the beginning at the end. And I think that's fair enough. And I'm probably not as worried about the tax-free cash going as others. So I'm probably thinking maybe this isn't necessary. I have some sympathy for government because they don't tend to try to, make pledges that they're not going to do things which might tie the hands of future governments, because who knows what a future government might need to do. So it's unlikely to be successful, but I think it's quite helpful for the industry to get together and say, we would like this. I think small print, we appreciate it will never happen, but we would like this kind of level of reassurance so people don't make short-term bad decisions on unfounded rumours, which is the situation we're in now. So we'll put a link to the petition and in the comments of our LinkedIn post. So if you want to sign it, you're welcome to do so. Another tax matter is the scam issues. Again, that's come up. There's been an article in The Guardian about a death of a member who was in a Norton Motorcycles pension scheme, got scammed out of their pension. Now some money's come through to actually be paid out. It's outside the two-year rule where benefits are tested against the lump sum of their benefit allowance, and instead they're taxed on the recipient. So that doesn't seem very fair when there was no way to pay the benefits out previously. HMRC had their hands tied by legislation which says if it's paid outside the 2 years of death, or when death was reasonably known about, then these tax charges apply. So there's been some calls, and I think that would be good if HMRC could be given some discretion in certain circumstances to waive those tax charges, which are the no fault of the administrator and no fault of the eventual recipient. So something like that would be good. But again, I'm not holding my breath, although there's a pensions bill going through, but it would be nice if someone could go through on that.
Well, thanks everybody for watching, and here's hoping next week we can not talk about the 25% tax. I'm looking forward to it.